and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. Today I want to rank the Metroid series, just the mainline entries. I will not be counting Federation Force, even though I guess that technically is like part of the canon, but I never played it. I don't think it's worth playing, and I'm also not going to be ranking Metroid Prime Pinball. So everything else is fair game. I'm going to be talking about the mainline entries. I think the Metroid series across the board is stellar, one of the best consistent franchises in all of video gaming. But let's start off with the very bottom, the one that is not very consistent. That's going to be Metroid Other M. Now this one is the weirdest entry in the series, primarily because of how it kind of retcons some of Samus's character and makes her very different from how she's portrayed in the rest of the series. And it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and I can see why. It makes her seem less intelligent, less strong, just less interesting of a character, and I think they were going for dynamic, making her feel more human, but I think they really missed the mark. The gameplay elements are actually really cool. This third person over the shoulder, almost second person camera, and then having the first person perspective for aiming down the sights. I think it's a really cool mix of what they're going for here, gameplay wise, but I don't think they've hit the mark on the storyline, and it really falls apart. And I don't really love Metroid Other M. I don't think it's a terrible game, but it's certainly the weakest in the entire franchise. Next is going to be Metroid Prime Hunters for the Nintendo DS. Now, I quite like this game. I played through it finally not too many years back. I finally got around to it. I found a secondhand copy. I was really excited about it because I didn't really ever play it for some reason. I don't know why I missed out on it, but I really enjoyed it. It wasn't the strongest, clearly, since it's at number 9 here at the bottom of my list, but it is a lot of fun. I think the biggest weakness is the hardware that it's on. The DS isn't the strongest place to be putting a first-person shooter, but it really works for what they were able to do with the hardware. I like the storyline. I like the introduction of new characters. I think some of the environments are a little bit samey, and some of the directions and directives are not that clear. It's kind of hard to follow sometimes, but it is a very enjoyable game, and I had a good time with it. Next is going to be Metroid Prime 3. Now, this one is a really interesting case because I really love the Prime franchise, but I think it slowly declined over time. Metroid Prime 3 was the most dynamic, with tons of open, different worlds to explore. You would go to them in different orders, and you have to find certain things before you could go back. It was like a bigger idea of backtracking, this bigger Metroidvania scale. I like the idea a lot, but this is the one I haven't played in the longest. This is game I have played the least out of all of these games, I think. Maybe Metroid Other M is the one I didn't play very much. Metroid Prime 3 I only finished a single time, and I never went back to it. I would really like to see this one re-released so I could give it another good shot, a fresh look, but I remember it being a little bit slower paced and not as exciting as the other Prime entries, so it's going to be down here at number 8. Number 7 is going to be Metroid Zero Mission and the original Metroid. I'll count these as one singular thing. I'll be mostly looking at Metroid Zero Mission because it's a revamp of the original game with some new missions, including the Zero Suit, the introduction of Zero Suit Samus here. It's a fantastic entry point in the series. I think the original Metroid game is so much fun. The addition of having a map and a better way to follow the story in Metroid Zero Mission makes it a much cleaner experience, but the original is so special and so fantastic. It really blew the world apart with having a female protagonist that you didn't even know was a female protagonist unless you got the special secret ending, and having it work on the Nintendo Entertainment System was actually phenomenal. The GBA remake obviously is probably the best place to play this, and I really enjoyed Zero Mission, but I also really enjoyed the original. So this is going to be right here. Number 6 is going to be Metroid 2 Return of Samus. I'll be counting again the original Game Boy release and the 3DS remake. 3DS remake is clearly the superior experience overall. It is so much fun. It's so clean. The combat especially was revamped and worked so well, and led the path for the eventual Metroid Dread that came out on the Nintendo Switch in terms of how it handled combat and how effective it was. I love the remake, and I actually really loved the original too. When I got it for my Game Boy, I remember getting really excited and playing through it. It was really difficult to get through because of how the map system works and how archaic the map system is, and how you get around and everything. But finally getting to the end was a really rewarding experience. And Metroid 2 Return of Samus, the remake, really help this system be a lot cleaner and much easier and more digestible. And again, that combat is so phenomenal. I love Metroid 2 Return of Samus. Next on my list, number 5 is going to be Metroid Prime 2. This game made a lot of improvements from the original game. I think I mentioned this in my GameCube games list. The only reason this one doesn't go ahead of Metroid Prime is because it wasn't quite as innovative for the genre. And because I think I liked Talon 4 a little bit better as a location. The beam system and everything was just a little bit better. But Metroid Prime 2 did a lot of things right and didn't really take any steps back for the franchise. The introduction of the light and dark world is really unique mechanic. The screw attack making a return is so cool in 3D. I love what they did with Metroid Prime 2. Some of the boss fights were a little bit long. I can remember one that took me, I think, a couple hours straight of slogging through. That one was really difficult for me to finish. But other than that, I remember Metroid 2 being such a phenomenal experience. I'm about to play through it again. I'm really excited to jump back into that one. Number 4 is going to be Super Metroid. I love Super Nintendo video games. I think this was where Nintendo is making some of the tightest made games ever made. They really were pulling out all the stops to make these games phenomenal. And Super Metroid was a prime example of this. They really innovated on the formula from Metroid 1 and 2 and made a super phenomenal experience, the best in the series by far. They introduced more things like the map system and the wall jumping and all these beautiful mechanics they implemented into this game. And it's still very beloved to this day. I actually saw a video, a take on Twitter, I think, that was like, the Super Metroid is the worst in the entire franchise. I think that's hilarious. Super Metroid still stands tall to this day. It maybe doesn't control as well as the new ones, obviously, but it is a phenomenal, in terms of location, in terms of how you explore the world, the boss fights, the enemies, it is still so fantastic. But at number 3, my next one's going to be Metroid Fusion. I like this one a little bit better, primarily because of a little bit of bias. I played this a lot on my Game Boy Advance and had a phenomenal time with it. I got to the point where I was so good at it, I could beat it in under a couple hours. I would do it on road trips. I've played this one probably 20-something times, couple dozen times, and it's just so much fun. Having the SAX as your main antagonist, being like the super-powered version of Samus, I think is so cool. The X-Parasite is a beautiful mechanic, and being able to absorb these things to make you stronger is such an interesting idea. And the return to SR388 is such a cool location. I really love everything about Metroid Fusion. I can't say enough good things about this. But the one that tops it in terms of 2D Metroid games for me is going to be Metroid Dread for the Nintendo Switch. Everything that they learned from the 2D Metroid games is in full force here, making the very best 2D Metroid game, and one that we didn't expect to even get. I can't believe they actually made this game and made it so perfect. It's out of this world good, has some of the best world design, has some of the best enemies. They introduced the combat from Metroid 2 Return of Samus, the remake on the 3DS, and made it even better. I love this game in every respect. I'll be doing a full review on this fairly soon because I got it day one on the Switch. I enjoyed the heck out of it and had a brilliant time. And of course, number 1 is going to be Metroid Prime. If you followed my lists beforehand, you'll know that this is very high up on my all-time great lists, and I really love Metroid Prime. If you want to see my full review on it, I recently did a review talking all about that game and why it's such a perfect experience. Metroid Prime brought the series into 3D in the best way possible, has probably the best location in all of Metroid, has incredible combat, great bosses, beautiful design, the best lore in the series. Everything about this game screams perfection. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about the Metroid series, what your favorite games are, and maybe even your favorite, maybe even your list of the Metroid series ranked. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one.